I thought being a late-night radio DJ would be the easiest job in the world, but I was wrong about everything. It was my third week at WKRZ, this tiny AM station that broadcasts to maybe 3 counties in rural Pennsylvania. The kind of place where people still listen to radio because their internet was spotty and their phone signals dropped every few miles. I took the midnight to 6 shift because it paid an extra $2 an hour, and honestly, I needed the money. Student loans were crushing me, and this seemed like free money. Just play some songs, read the weather, maybe take a call or two. Simple, right? The station was in this old building that used to be a funeral home back in the 50s. I know, cliché as hell, but it's true. You could still see where they'd removed the viewing room dividers. My booth was probably where they'd done the embalming. Not exactly comforting at 3 in the morning when you're the only person in the building, but I told myself I was too rational to believe in ghosts. My first 2 weeks were boring. Absolutely nothing happened. I'd play the classic rock rotation, read the news feed, and scroll through my phone between segments. Sometimes I'd get a call from an insomniac trucker or someone working a night shift at the plastics factory. We'd chat for a few minutes, I'd play their request, and that was it. But on that third Monday, things changed. Started with a phone call at 2:17 in the morning. I remember the exact time because I was watching the clock, counting down the minutes until my shift ended. The request line lit up, which was weird because nobody ever called that late on a Monday. I picked up with my radio voice, all cheerful and energetic. WKRZ, you're on the air with Danny. What can I play for you tonight? Nothing. Just static and this weird humming sound. Like when you hold a seashell to your ear but deeper, more resonant. It made my teeth hurt. Hello? Anyone there? I asked, about to hang up. Then I heard it. A voice, but not like any voice I'd ever heard before. It was layered, like multiple people speaking in perfect unison. And it said just 3 words, play the message. The line went dead. I sat there for a moment, my hand shaking slightly as I hung up the phone. Probably just some kids messing around. I told myself, small town, not much to do, let's freak out the new DJ. Yeah, that made sense. But then the request line lit up again, and again, and again. Every single light on my phone board was blinking. I picked up another line and it was the same thing. That humming, that voice. Play the message. Different line, same voice, same words. Every single line was the same. I stopped answering. My heart was hammering in my chest, and I could feel sweat dripping down my back even though the booth was freezing. The calls kept coming for 10 straight minutes, the lights blinking in this hypnotic pattern that made me feel dizzy. Then they stopped, all at once. Complete silence except for the song that was playing, some Eagles track that I'd queued up earlier. I took a deep breath, tried to calm down. Prank calls. Had to be. Maybe I'd pissed someone off without knowing it. That's when I noticed the tape. It was sitting on the console right in front of me, and I swear to God it hadn't been there 30 seconds earlier. I'd been staring at that exact spot, and it just appeared. An old cassette tape, the kind nobody's used in 20 years, with a white label that had 2 words written in shaky handwriting. Play me. Every instinct I had screamed at me to throw that tape in the trash, to call my manager, to leave the building, to do anything except what I did next. But you know what curiosity does. You know how it pulls at you, makes you do stupid things even when you know better. I picked up the tape. It was warm, like someone had been holding it in their hand for a long time. The plastic case was scratched and old, and when I opened it, the tape inside was brown with age. I loaded it into the cassette player we kept for vintage sound effects, my hands trembling so badly I almost dropped it. I pressed play, but I didn't put it on the air. I just listened through my headphones first. Smart, right? At least I had that much sense. For the first 10 seconds, nothing. Just that same humming from the phone calls, but louder, more intense. It made my vision blur at the edges. Then a voice started speaking, but it wasn't that layered voice from before. This was a single person, a man, and he sounded terrified. If you're hearing this, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. My name is David Kushner, and I was the overnight DJ at this station in 1987. I'm making this recording as a warning, but I know it won't matter. The pattern always repeats. You got the calls, didn't you? The same voice telling you to play the message. And now you're listening to this and you're going to make the same choice I did, because that's how it works. I should have stopped the tape right there. Should have ripped it out of the player and smashed it. But David Kushner's voice had this quality to it, this desperate need to be heard, and I couldn't look away. There's something that lives in the broadcast, he continued. His breathing was ragged, panicked. I don't know what it is or where it came from, but it's been here longer than this station, longer than radio itself maybe. It feeds on attention, on listeners, on the connection between the voice and the ear. And it needs us, the DJs, to let it out. The humming grew louder, and underneath it, I could hear other sounds. Whispers, hundreds of them, all talking at once, but just quiet enough that I couldn't make out words. I played the message on the air that night. I don't even remember making the choice. My hand just moved on its own, and suddenly it was broadcasting. For 6 hours, that message went out over the airwaves, and I sat here frozen, unable to move, unable to speak, unable to do anything but listen as it told them things. Terrible things. True things about themselves that nobody should know. My blood went cold because I realized my hand was moving toward the broadcast switch. I wasn't telling it to move. I was watching it happen like I was a passenger in my own body. 37 people died that night, David's voice cracked. Car accidents, heart attacks, suicides. They all heard the broadcast. They all learned their secrets, their futures, their deaths. The police never connected it to the radio show. How could they? But I knew. And the thing in the broadcast, it was satisfied. For a while. My finger was an inch from the switch now. I was screaming at myself internally, fighting with everything I had, but my body wouldn't obey. It comes back every 37 years, David whispered. Needs to feed again. Needs new listeners, new deaths. And it always finds a DJ willing to help it, even if they don't want to. I'm making this tape so you'll know it wasn't your fault. So you'll understand that you couldn't have stopped it. Couldn't either. None of us could. The humming reached a crescendo, and the whispers became screams, and my finger hit the switch. The tape began broadcasting, and I sat there paralyzed as that sound poured out over the airwaves, reaching into homes and cars and truck stops across 3 counties. But then something unexpected happened. The fire alarm went off. The ancient sprinkler system that barely worked suddenly activated, and water poured down onto the equipment. Sparks flew from the console and the power cut out. The station went dead, and I could move again. I ran. I didn't grab my coat, didn't clock out, didn't do anything but run out of that building into the freezing March night. I sat in my car, shaking, watching the dark windows of the station, expecting something to come after me. Nothing did. The broadcast had lasted maybe 45 seconds before the water killed the power. 45 seconds instead of 6 hours. I drove home, called in sick for the next week, and eventually quit over email. I spent months waiting for news reports of mysterious deaths, of accidents and suicides, but nothing came. Nothing at all. Maybe 45 seconds wasn't enough. Maybe the water saved all those people. Or maybe it just delayed things, and somewhere out there, 37 people are walking around with knowledge they shouldn't have, waiting for it to catch up with them. I never found out what happened to David Kushner. There's no record of him ever working at WKRZ, no obituary, nothing. It's like he never existed at all. But sometimes, late at night, I'll be scanning through radio stations and I'll catch a few seconds of that humming between frequencies. And I know it's still out there, waiting for the next DJ, the next broadcast, the next feeding. The station is still running, by the way. They hired a new overnight DJ 2 weeks after I quit. Nice kid, just out of college, needed the money. I thought about warning him, but what would I say? That there's a ghost in the radio waves? That playing the wrong tape can kill people? He'd think I was insane. Maybe I am. But sometimes I drive past the old funeral home late at night, and I see the light on in the broadcast booth, and I wonder if he's gotten the phone calls yet. I wonder if he's found a tape with his name on it. And I keep driving, because there's nothing I can do to stop what's coming. The pattern always repeats, David said. Every 37 years, it feeds. and I left that kid alone in the dark with something hungry. Story number 2. The worst thing about being an overnight toll booth operator isn't the loneliness. It's the knowing you'll never be able to leave. Let me explain. For 6 months, I worked the midnight to 8 shift at Booth 17 on the old turnpike, about 40 miles outside of Columbus, Ohio. It's one of those ancient stretches of highway that they keep talking about replacing but never do because there's no money in the budget. Just 2 lanes in each direction, minimal lighting, and toll booths that still take cash because half the people using this road don't trust modern technology. Booth 17 was the furthest one from the main building, separated by a quarter-mile of empty parking spaces and service road. During my shift, I'd see maybe 30 cars on a busy night, closer to 15 on a slow one. Mostly truckers taking shortcuts, occasional travelers who got lost using GPS, and the odd local who worked strange hours. The pay was decent, $22 an hour to sit in a heated box, take money, and make change. I'd bring my laptop, watch streaming shows, read books. It was boring but easy, and after getting laid off from my marketing job, easy was exactly what I needed. My trainer was this old guy named Harold who'd been working the tolls for 30 years. On my first night, he showed me the basics, how to operate the cash register, where the emergency button was, how to radio the main office if there was trouble. Standard stuff. But as his shift ended and mine began, he paused at the door of the booth and gave me this strange look. "You ever see the same car twice in one night, you call me immediately," he said. His voice was dead serious, no hint of joking around. "Don't matter what time it is, you call." I laughed it off, asked him what he meant, but he was already walking away toward his truck. I figured he was one of those eccentric old-timers who'd been alone too long, seeing patterns where there weren't any. I was wrong. The first 2 months were completely normal, boring even. I'd see the same truckers on the same routes, recognize a few regular commuters who worked night shifts at the hospital or the airport. Nothing weird, nothing unusual. I started to relax into the rhythm of it. Then I met the man in the red sedan. It was a Tuesday in early October, about 2:30 in the morning. Dead quiet, hadn't seen a car in over an hour. Fog was rolling in thick off the fields on either side of the highway, reducing visibility to almost nothing. My booth lights created this little bubble of illumination in the gray darkness. I heard the car before I saw it, engine humming as it rolled up to my window. A red sedan, maybe 10 years old, nothing remarkable about it. The driver was a middle-aged man in a business suit, looking tired and worn out. He handed me a $5 bill for the $3.50 toll, told me to keep the change, and drove off. Normal interaction, exactly like 1,000 others. 45 minutes later, the same red sedan pulled up to my window. Same man, same suit, same tired expression. He handed me a $5 bill, told me to keep the change, drove off. I watched him go in my side mirror, confused. Had he forgotten something? Was he lost? The next exit was 30 miles up, so if he turned around, he would have had to drive 60 miles to end up back at my booth. I checked the camera system that recorded license plates. Sure enough, same car, same plate, 3:17 in the morning. But the weird thing was, there was no record of him passing through in the other direction. He'd paid to get on the highway at my booth, but he'd never paid to get off, like he'd materialized out of nowhere. I radioed the main office, asked if they'd seen a red sedan loop back through one of the other booths. The night supervisor, a woman named Peggy, checked and said no. No red sedan had passed through any booth in either direction between my 2 sightings. She told me I was probably just tired, my eyes playing tricks on me, but I knew what I saw. For the rest of the shift, I kept watching for that car. It never came back. I went home at 8, slept badly, came back the next night hoping it had been a one-time thing. It wasn't. At 2:31 in the morning, exactly 24 hours and 1 minute after the first time, the red sedan pulled up to my window. Same man, same $5 bill, same instructions to keep the change. But this time I looked closer, really looked at him, and I saw that his eyes were wrong. They didn't blink. They didn't move. They just stared straight ahead with this glassy, fixed expression, like a mannequin's eyes. "Sir," I said, my voice shaking slightly. Did you just come through here? He didn't respond, didn't even acknowledge that I'd spoken. Just waited for his receipt with that frozen stare, then drove off into the fog. I called Harold. It was almost 3 a.m, but he picked up on the second ring, like he'd been waiting for it. When I described what was happening, he went quiet for a long moment. How many times? He asked finally. 3. Same car, same time, same everything. It's starting again, he said, and I could hear something like grief in his voice. Listen to me very carefully, Sarah. You need to start documenting everything. Every car that comes through, write down the time, the license plate, the driver's description. Everything. And if you see that red sedan more than 7 times, you need to leave that booth and never come back. You understand me? 7 times is the limit. Harold, what are you talking about? What's happening? The highway is looping, he said. I don't know how else to explain it. Sometimes reality gets stuck on this stretch of road. Cars that should have passed through hours ago come back. Drivers who should be long gone get caught in the repetition. And if you're in the booth when it fully collapses, you become part of the loop too. I thought he was insane. I really did. But the fear in his voice was real, and I'd seen what I'd seen. So I started keeping a notebook, writing down every vehicle that passed through. And every night, like clockwork, at 2:30 in the morning, the red sedan appeared. For times. 5 times. 6 times. Always the same, never varying by more than a minute or 2. By the 7th night, I was ready to quit. I'd brought all my personal belongings with me, planning to walk out the moment I saw that car a 7th time. But something made me stay. Curiosity, stupidity, I don't know. I wanted to understand. 2:30 rolled around, and right on schedule, the red sedan pulled up. But this time was different. There were 2 of them, the original car and right behind it, an identical red sedan with the same license plate. Same driver in both cars, same glassy stare, same $5 bill. I took the money from both, hands trembling, and watched them drive off one after the other into the fog. That's when I noticed the other headlights. Dozens of them all emerging from the fog. Cars I'd seen on previous nights, all coming through at once. A white pickup truck from Monday, a blue minivan from Wednesday, a motorcycle from Friday. All of them had passed through my booth before, all at different times, and now they were here together, queued up in impossible sequence. I grabbed my things and ran, just abandoned the booth, left the register open, didn't even radio in. I ran across the empty parking lot toward the main building, and when I looked back, I saw something that still gives me nightmares. The toll booth was gone. Not destroyed, not damaged, just gone. And where it had been, there was a section of highway that curved back on itself like a Mobius strip, with all those cars driving in an endless circuit, appearing and disappearing into the fog, trapped in a loop that would never end. I quit that night. Harold understood, didn't even seem surprised. He told me he'd worked booth 17 for 15 years before he finally got transferred, and he'd seen 3 other operators get caught in the loop. They're still there, he said, still in their booths, still taking tolls from the same cars over and over, not even aware that they're trapped. The highway authority hired a new operator for booth 17 2 weeks later. I thought about warning her, but what could I say that wouldn't sound insane? Instead, I drive by sometimes late at night just to see if the booth is still there. Most nights it is, but some nights, when the fog is thick and the moon is dark, I'll see that stretch of road curve back on itself, and I'll catch a glimpse of headlights moving in impossible directions. And sometimes, I swear I can see booth 17 out there in the loop, with someone sitting inside, making change for drivers who will never reach their destination. I always speed up when I pass that section. I never look too closely, because I know if I look long enough, I might see my own face staring back at me from inside that booth, trapped forever in a night that will never end. Story number 3. I used to think Route 66 was just a romantic idea, a nostalgic piece of Americana that didn't really mean anything anymore. But then I spent 6 months working the night shift at a gas station that taught me how wrong I was about everything. The station was called Jimmy's Stop and Go, and it sat at a lonely crossroads about 200 miles from anywhere that mattered. One of those places that shows up on old maps but not on GPS, where the nearest town was 30 miles away and the cell phone service cut out about 5 miles in any direction. It was me, the fluorescent lights, and whatever travelers were desperate or lost enough to end up on this forgotten stretch of road. I took the job because I was running from something. Doesn't matter what anymore. Bad relationship, bad decisions, the usual story. The owner was happy to pay cash under the table and didn't ask questions, which was exactly what I needed. Midnight to 8, 7 days a week, $200 a day. The work was simple: pump gas for the few cars that stopped, sell cigarettes and energy drinks, clean the bathrooms once a shift. The station itself was stuck in time, all original 1950s architecture with the rounded edges and chrome trim. Vintage gas pumps that had been converted to modern fuel, but still had the old spinning numbers visible through glass panels. A classic neon sign that buzzed and flickered and cast everything in this sick pink glow. Inside, the shelves were half empty, stocked with products that seemed decades out of date. But it worked barely, and that was enough. For the first month, I averaged maybe 10 customers a night. Truckers mostly, following routes their GPS didn't know about. Occasional tourists who'd taken a wrong turn. Strange folks who seemed comfortable with the emptiness of this place. I'd pump their gas, take their money, watch their taillights disappear into the darkness. Easy money. Then the broadcast started. It was a Thursday, I remember, because Thursday was when I'd restocked the beer cooler. Around 1 in the morning, the radio behind the counter just turned itself on. I hadn't touched it, hadn't been anywhere near it. 1 second silence, the next second static, and then a voice. It was a woman, speaking in this old-fashioned mid-Atlantic accent, like those newsreels from the 40s. This is a message for all travelers on Route 66. If you can hear this broadcast, you are in danger. Do not stop at Jimmy's Stop and Go. Do not accept assistance from the attendant. Keep driving until you reach populated areas. This is not a joke. This is not a drill. You are in danger. Then it cut back to static, and the radio turned itself off. I stood there for a solid minute, just staring at it, trying to process what I'd heard. Finally, I convinced myself it was some kind of prank. Maybe a local radio station doing a Halloween thing early, some viral marketing campaign. It didn't make sense, but neither did anything else about this place. The next night, it happened again. Same time, same voice, same message. But this time, she added something at the end. He is not what he appears to be. He is keeping you there. You must leave before you become part of the road. Now I was genuinely unsettled. This felt personal, directed at me. I checked the radio, looking for a timer or a recording device, but it was just a standard old AM radio, nothing special about it. I even unplugged it and put it in the storage room, but at 1 in the morning, I heard that voice again, this time coming from the speakers in the gas pump island outside. By the end of the week, the broadcast was everywhere. The radio in cars that stopped for gas would suddenly switch to that message. The TV in the break room that didn't even have an antenna would flicker to life and show static with the audio underneath. The intercom system I'd never used suddenly crackled with that woman's warning. Every single night, 1 in the morning, like clockwork. And then customers started disappearing. Not while they were at the station, but after. I'd see them on the security cameras, pulling out of the lot, heading east or west on the highway. But the next night, they'd be back. Same car, same person, pulling in again like it was the first time. I started keeping a log, matching license plates and faces, and the pattern was undeniable. 70% of the people who stopped at my station ended up coming back within 24 hours. But here's the thing that really scared me: they didn't remember being there before. I'd see a guy in a Ford pickup, same guy who'd bought a Coke and a bag of chips the night before, and when I'd mention it, he'd look at me like I was crazy. As far as he knew, this was his first time at Jimmy's Stop and Go. First time on this stretch of Route 66. I started asking questions. Where were you headed? Where did you come from? How long have you been driving? And the answers never made sense. They'd say they'd been on the road for 2 hours, but they'd left from cities that were 8 hours away. They'd be heading to destinations that were in the opposite direction. It was like they were all lost, all confused, all trapped in some kind of geographical anomaly that kept pulling them back to this one point on the map. The broadcast got more specific. The woman started naming people. Robert Jennings in the blue Subaru, you have been here for 17 days. You think it's only been one night, but you've been looping through this section of highway for over 2 weeks. Your family is looking for you. You need to leave now. And sure enough, I'd check my log, and there'd be a blue Subaru registered to Robert Jennings that had stopped at the station 17 times. I tried to warn people, started telling them about the loops, about how they needed to keep driving and not come back. Some of them listened or pretended to. Most thought I was high or crazy, and all of them came back anyway. The road wouldn't let them leave. That's when I started to understand what the broadcast meant about me. I'd been there for 6 months, working 7 nights a week, and I couldn't remember the last time I'd actually left the property during daylight. I'd sleep in the back room, wake up, start my shift. The owner never came by. I never saw another employee. My paychecks came in the mail to the station, and I'd cash them at the register out of my own till. I wasn't just working there. I was trapped there. I tried to leave, got in my car one night after my shift, started driving east toward the nearest town. But the road just kept going. Mile after mile of empty highway. No landmarks, no signs, just endless asphalt under a gray sky that never got brighter. After 3 hours of driving, I ended up right back at the station, like the road had curved around on itself. The broadcast started talking to me directly. Marcus, you've been at Jimmy's for 6 years, not 6 months. Look at your driver's license. Look at the newspapers. Time works differently where you are. You are the attendant now. You are part of what keeps the others trapped. I looked at my license and she was right. The expiration date was 6 years past. The newspapers in the station were all from the same week, just cycling through the same 7 days over and over. And when I really thought about it, I couldn't remember a single customer's face clearly. Couldn't remember what season it was. Couldn't remember anything but the routine. Pump gas, take money, watch taillights disappear. I smashed the radio, tore it apart with a tire iron, scattered the pieces across the parking lot. But at 1 in the morning, the voice came back, this time from everywhere at once. The wind carried it. The hum of the fluorescent lights shaped it. Even my own breathing seemed to whisper it. You can still leave, she said, but you have to let them go first. You have to break the pattern. Close the station. Turn off the lights. Stop being what this place needs you to be. So that's what I'm doing. Tonight is my last night at Jimmy's Stop and Go. I've turned off the pumps. I've locked the doors. I've smashed every light bulb in the place. When the sun comes up, if it ever does, I'm going to walk away from this place and keep walking until I find a road that actually goes somewhere. But before I go, I need you to know if you're ever driving through the Southwest and you see a gas station that isn't on your map, a place called Jimmy's that seems stuck in the past, do not stop. Do not go inside. The attendant, whoever it is now, they're not trying to help you. They're part of the trap. And if you hear a woman's voice warning you over the radio, listen to her. She's the only one telling the truth. I don't know who she is or why she's trying to help, but I think she might be someone who escaped this place once, someone who's trying to save the rest of us. I hope I get to meet her someday, to thank her, to ask her how she got out. But first, I have to survive until morning. And I'm not sure anymore if morning is something that actually happens here, or if it's just another loop I've convinced myself is real.